we go. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another show here at the IWCA. Nick Thurston, your host, and I'm sitting here across from Rob Buffington. Rob is owner of East West Building Works, which is a window cleaning, gutter cleaning, and various other ancillary services. Rob also does some business coaching. He's been very successful in his career. So, Rob, why don't you go ahead and take it away? Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your history with your business and anything else you want to share there.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Nick.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, I'm the owner of East West Building Works. This is a company that I purchased in 2017 from the original owner who started off with him and a friend working on a truck and built it into a $2 million business with 6 crews. His scheduling software when I took over this is not a figure of speech. It was literally a legal pad and a pen, and he would literally have, this is December and this pad is January, and one page would be January 1st and January 2nd and so on.
Wow.
And I'll give him credit. I mean, it worked. He, and I paid him the money for it, so he was doing something right.
$2 million on a pad and paper.
Yeah, and I asked him, like, what if the building burns down? Do you have a scan of this somewhere? Nope, never happened. What if so the place gets robbed? It's in a crap. Nope, I don't know, just never happened yet. Wow. So that was an interesting start. But great business, great reputation. He sent his invoices and proposals out through the mail. He had an email, but he didn't have any kind of CRM software. He didn't have any automated follow-ups. He literally would just put a packet of stuff in the mail and send it out and see what happened. He didn't have a check scanner. He'd literally go to the bank every other day and just deposit the checks in the bank. Really nice guy. I mean, great guy. Did really well during the transfer of the business. So none of this is meant to be derogatory, but after 30 years, I guess you just don't have to change.
Yeah. Hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah, he made really good money at it, so I can't knock him, but it didn't work for me. All of the records were hard copy paper. In the basement, there were 4 metal filing cabinets and 26 legal boxes full of. He was a great record keeper. He had, like, everything was in there. Every receipt. Literally, you could reconstruct everything for like 15 years.
Wow.
So he was,
That's
meticulous
impressive.
record, but. He never really heard of an iPad.
Hey, there you go. It's funny. It reminds me of when I took over the business, because I took over my family business back in 2015, and it was similar. I mean, they had email and digital files and stuff like that, but it was my uncle running the company at the time, and he had just boxes of papers everywhere, and it's like, yep, here's the history. Good luck. So it's impressive that he was that organized and doing that much business.
Yeah, well, he had cleaned most of the buildings himself, so he didn't need records because he started him in a truck. But over, it was definitely a bumpy transition. The first year was pretty brutal. I bought it with partners, which was my first mistake. Partners I didn't know. So if anybody ever offers you, money to get involved in a deal, run from that very, very quickly if you don't know.
Yeah, be very, very careful with partners. I can attest to that too.
Yeah. We also bought it with an SBA loan, which can be very, very profitable and productive if you're doing it right. If you're buying a business and it's an arm's length transaction, it's one of the few things in the government that I think really works well, is the SBA department does some pretty awesome things. So yeah, I definitely take a look at that. Any business banker is going to know an SBA 7A or an SBA 504 loan, which you can use to buy property for 10% down at very good interest rates. So definitely take note of those, because even if you're happy renting, you can buy a building, only use 51% and rent out the other 49%. So you get your first rental property for only 10% down. So that can be a really effective way to leverage that as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic, especially if you need to buy a shop for your own company or whatever, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you can either pay your mortgage or somebody else's mortgage.
Exactly.
I cut my teeth into this. I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, love that. So sorry, continue with the story there.
Yeah, partners were a horrible idea. I'm not going to name any names or get too in depth because I signed some papers saying I wouldn't. Couldn't agree on anything. I mean, just huge knockdown, drag out fights. Just very, very different ideas of what was best for the company and frankly, what was morally correct.
Mm.
Long story short, fast forward through that first year, I was able to buy them out at a rather usurious price, but the first year until I was able to do that, I was literally working 80 hours a week. I would get there at 5 a.m. I would stay until 8 at night. That was Monday through Friday, and then I'd work a full day Saturday and I'd work a full day Sunday. And it was just, it was brutal. It nearly broke me. In fact, it may have broken me. You'd have to ask my wife about that. But
Yeah,
well,
that's
Nick, I'm
rough.
sure you can appreciate poorly at work. It bleeds over into your marriage, into your kids, into everything, and it can definitely put you in a bad place. So it was not a good time for sure.
Yeah, people talk about work-life balance for a reason, right? And even though there's never really a balance per se, you definitely have to pay attention to it. That is for sure. I've made that same mistake, working the exact same hours, get there at 5 a.m. Even if I wasn't at the office, I brought work home and I'm working until 10 o'clock at night sometimes, just can't shut it off. And yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do when you're hustling in the beginning, but be aware, everybody. It is not sustainable. Yeah.
You can do it for a season. If it's peak season, you got to work some overtime. That's just what your job is. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
But if it's going more than a month, you'll see literal physical health problems as a result. So you gotta keep that balance.
Physical health, mental health.
Absolutely.
It takes a toll.
In turn, negatively impacts your work. Like right now, I get more done in 20 hours a week than I used to get done in 80. And I don't want to fast forward. We'll get to that in a little bit, but the quality of your work is just as important.
Very, very true. Yeah, I mean, what is that? The Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah, your results come from 20% of your actions.
Yep.
Huge.
Holds true always.
Absolutely.
Still something.
And it also
still
means
something I struggle with today. But
yeah, it also means that 80% of your problems come from 20% of your clients. So find those clients and.
That is true.
Can I say that here?
Yes. I don't think the clients are listening.
Okay. I love you, clients. Thank you for buying my house. It was a bad time. We went through secretaries every 4 to 6 weeks. I think we went through 4 secretaries in 6 months. So it was just a constant cycle. Wow. Temp agencies didn't work. In hindsight, a lot of it was my fault because the whole thing was a mess. And you can't hire an employee to fix a mess. What you have to do is you have to take some small corner of your company and make it work right, and then hire somebody to take that from you, and then work on another section and hand that off. If you hire somebody expecting them to improve their area, you're going to be sorely disappointed 9 times out of 10. And I hadn't figured that out yet, especially with the magnitude of what we were dealing with.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's another thing I can 100% relate to. We had what our goal was in our company. We thought when we first took over that me and my partners, we thought we could just hire somebody and say, hey, we want this to be your position. Make it your own. Do what you think is best. Create the position for yourself. Yeah. We thought we were doing them a favor, but we were doing them a disservice because we set them up for failure. And yeah, it took us a long time to learn that. You're right. You're absolutely right. You got to dial in the system and give them a playbook and say, here's how it works. And that's the only way. I shouldn't say the only way. Maybe 1 out of 10 times it might work that way if you find the right person. But for the majority of the time, yeah, you gotta have it dialed in and plug someone into it, and then they'll be happier knowing that they're not failing you and that you're not failing them, and all the way around. Absolutely agree.
Yeah, when I was younger, I worked security through college a lot, and one of the companies I worked for taught us something called the platinum rule. There's the golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated. And from a moral sense, that's certainly correct. But in terms of business, they said adhere to the platinum rule: treat others the way that they would like to be treated. Because just because you would want to be treated one way doesn't mean that they're going to be. So like you said, if you gave me a script and a playbook and a line I'd go crazy. I'd be out the door by lunch. But that doesn't mean that somebody else is, I would love to have freedom, and here's a vague set of instructions and just use your best judgment and go. That'd be awesome for me. but I'm pretty weird. 90% of the population is not like that. They do want the criteria and they want to know how to tell if they're doing good. So
Yeah.
if you're going to hire somebody, you need to have that position defined before you make the hire, or you're going to see a lot of turnover and very low productivity.
Yeah, and not in a negative sense, but that is the definition, or the difference, I should say, between an entrepreneur and an employee mindset. An employee doesn't want to have to figure it all out. That's why they didn't start their own business, quote unquote. Yeah, no, totally, absolutely agree with that. And I learned that the hard way, as it sounds like you did too.
Very hard.
But you got it going and you moved forward.
Yeah. I mean, fast forward a year, I was able to buy out my partners. I had to make some threats to do it, and basically say, you can either sell to me or I'm going to run this business into the ground. It's your pick, because I was on the loan and they couldn't buy me out. So it's like, take your pick, guys. We can all three go down in the flames, or we can figure this out. And bought out 51%, and then I bought out 100% because that wasn't working, and paid just a ridiculous price and amount of debt just to be rid of them, because everything I had was collateralized against the loan. So it was this or nothing.
Wow.
At our peak, we took an incredible amount of debt. At our peak, we were paying $70,000 a month of debt, not 17, 70. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so more than my last job made me in a year. I was paying that every month in debt, just in debt servicing, not payroll, not insurance, pure debt.
That's crazy. And you're looking at, every time you write those checks, you're going, wow, this could have been in my pocket.
Yeah, I did the math. Like, if these guys would have just, left me alone, we could have all been making this money, and yeah, or if I'd been able to buy it myself, or any, I ran through that scenario a million times, but which is pretty close to what I paid.
Yeah. Wow. Heed that warning, everybody.
Yeah.
Be careful who you choose for partners. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't do business financing unless it's good business financing. These companies are not your friends. Yeah, be very careful and read the paperwork. Again, I won't name the name, just because I don't want to do anything slanderous. But there was one I went to, and again, this was because I had to buy out my partners. I had to get cash from anywhere I could just to stay afloat. And I asked them point blank, is there a prepayment penalty? Because I want to pay this off as soon as we have some cash. No prepayment penalty. Don't worry about it. It was ridiculous. I think it was 27,000 or 150. It was okay. So about 22% interest, 150,000, and okay, no prepayment. Right, no prepayment. Get the thing. Get the money. Couple months later, I go to pay it off, and they say, "Oh, okay. Well, you're going to owe us, 177,000." I said, "What are you talking about? You said there's no prepayment." They said, "There isn't a prepayment, but we charge all the interest for the loan on the first day of the loan. So you can pay it off, but you're going to have to pay off the interest for the entire year."
Wow, that's tricky.
It's very shady. Yeah. And I just be very, very, very careful. Get good advice. Go with your bank if possible, because you can start digging yourself a hole that you can't get out of. And it took me 18 months. And in fact, I ended up selling another one of my companies just to get out in front of this and move on to the next chapter of my lives, because that was a pretty deep hole.
Wow. I feel like, this is actually a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, because I've gone through very similar, not quite to that extent, but similar situations with, all the different means of financing, private money, SBA money, the expensive online money, yeah. Which is, I assume, is what you're referring to with that 22% interest. That's what they sell you online. You got all sorts of companies, and again, I won't name them either, but we've looked into a lot of them, and you're right. There, you got to read the fine print, and even more than just reading the fine print, like you said, like have an attorney review everything. It's sometimes, when it seems too good to be true, it is. When they're like, yeah, we can have that $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 in your pocket tomorrow. It might fix your problem right now, but imagine the problems that are going to come next month when the bill comes. you
And
know?
ask yourself, why are they doing it? When everybody
Right.
else has turned you down, why? This company is not altruistic. They're doing it because they know even if you go down, they're going to take everything you have. And just,
Yep.
yeah,
We'll
just
have
be
to
very,
do
very careful.
we'll have to do a separate show on just purely financing because that's a big one. That is a very big one.
Yeah. And start building your business credit. Get a Dun and Bradstreet number. Start putting things in your business's name. Take out a line of credit even if you don't need it, and just take it out and pay it back, and work with a local community bank so that they know and they can advance you funds if you need. Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to do an episode on my bad decisions, that'd be a long episode, and maybe people
We'll have to
but
do that. We'll do another one. Yeah, exactly. Learn from our mistakes, guys. It is not
yeah,
fun.
you won't live long enough to make them all yourself.
Yeah. So I am curious though, like with that $70,000 a month, like how did that affect your operations? I imagine that put a stress on the business.
It was horrible because I couldn't afford risk if AR went too long, if a client paid late. It just, you were just boxed in the entire time. I couldn't put money into advertising. I couldn't hire the help I needed. Yeah, it was a nightmare. It was very bad. I borrowed, I don't even know. I mean, I borrowed from friends. I had to borrow from my family, which was just so terrible. And I would never do that again if I wasn't staring down the barrel of some pretty hefty loans. But
Yeah.
yeah, it constricted the movement. And I think, and seeing what we've been able to do since we paid off the debt, it makes me realize how much it cost me, not just in interest, but in opportunity cost. That
Right.
now that the business is debt free and I've got a little bit of money, we've just taken off, and how I could have done that from day one if I hadn't made these mistakes.
Yeah. No, I know we run into the same problem. It's that catch 22 of I have to grow myself out of this debt because there is no going backwards once you take the loan. You can't
No.
downsize, you can't scale back and say, I'm just going to go back to this nice profitable, one man operation or two man operation, uh, thinking, hey, I'm just going to make all the money myself because now you've got a debt payment, you know, you got to pay it. You have to. So
Yep.
you have to grow yourself out of it. But like you said, you can't afford the advertising to bring in the business. You can't afford to hire the help you need in the back office or the employees you need to get the work done. It's very, very, very difficult once you get into that situation. So I guess the lesson here is be very cautious when you take debt. Very
Yeah.
cautious.
Money is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. And it can be
I like
used
that.
to do some wonderful things. But if you're not careful, it can get you into a lifetime of trouble, literally.
Yep. Yes, it can. And it can take a lifetime to get out from under it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, we could talk about that for a full hour right there, but yeah,
Exactly.
just be
Exactly.
careful, ask for help. They're not your friends just because they smile. They'll be real nice to you up until you sign on the dotted line, and you will never see them again.
Yep. That is very true. So, without going into that show yet, let's move past that. How else has business been?
Business has been good. It was a slow change, but we started to make some good changes that added up over time. I like to say that running a business is like steering a ship. You can't make sharp changes and do things really quickly, or the ship's going to capsize. But if you make small, gradual changes over time, after 6 months or a year or 2 years, you'll see the long term changes in your company. So, one of the first things I did was I put everything in a program called Jobber, which I'm sure a lot of listeners are probably familiar with. Perfectly adequate program. If you have a small to medium sized operation, I would definitely take a look. There are others, House Call Pro, Service Fusion. There's a whole category, and I would do your research.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely get something cloud based. And so I started to put the new jobs in there. I left the filing cabinets and the boxes and all that for another day, but just new client data I started to put in there so we knew what was going on and didn't have to worry about accidentally shredding our entire schedule with the legal pads.
Right.
So that was nice, but it was still me doing everything. I was answering the phones, I was trying to bid the properties, I was trying to look up client history, and I was doing everything myself. So the first really good hire I made was for a customer service rep in Mexico, using remote staffing. The guy's actually still with me today. He's actually in town visiting this week. I started him with the basics: answer the phones, answer the basic questions: where are you located, what services do you offer, yada yada yada. Answer those, type up the proposals, take messages. That was pretty much it. Second hire that I made that was really good was an operations manager, because when I bought the company, depending on the season, we have anywhere from 19 to 25 employees. And so when you do roll in, roll out, supplies, inventory, just the general handling of the employees, putting out disputes, sending the right people, checking on job. I mean, it's a full-time job in itself. And the reason the previous owner was able to do it by himself was because he knew every building, because he started as one guy in a truck. He had cleaned most of the buildings. He knew most of the guys. It was just instinctual for him. Me, I had to learn it the hard way, and it was definitely a lot more work than I thought. So the second hire was that operations manager. His job was to manage the guys, do roll in, roll out, help with bidding properties, ordering supplies, things like that. So that was kind of the turning point. It took about a year because I still had the debt, but once I hired those people, things started to change for the better, because that freed me up to be able to start going through the records and putting the data in the computer. I got an industrial scanner, ScanSnap 550. They're only like $600. So if you do a lot of paper, if you want to come into the 21st century and scan all your files, check out a ScanSnap 550. It pays for itself many times over. And I started scanning, filing cabinets, legal boxes. Anytime there was downtime, we started scanning, and I would have the customer service rep in Mexico label them and put them in the file. And so, 123 Main Street for Main Street Property Management. Here's the file. Here's what we did it for last year. We typed everything up into Excel and Word. Excel and Word documents. So we had it ready to go. We uploaded it to Google Drive, and we just began to collect data. Eventually, we hired a second customer service rep, and then eventually a third, to just do pretty much everything. They recorded all the data. We put GPS trackers on the cars so we could track our dollars per hour at every job, and they could do dispatch for me. We put in an inventory system to track the supplies we had and just kind of have the minimums in place. And little by little, we started to build up momentum. That senior CSR that I talked about, who's still with me, I eventually started flying him up to work with the crews and cross-train and, see the tools and clean some windows and kind of build that rapport with the guys. And now 2/3 of my team down there has been up here several times to meet the guys and kind of see the operation. And now the end result is the company is more or less absentee run. I live out of state. I attend 2 meetings a week for the most part via video call. One is our admin meeting, one is our operations meeting. And I got a great team in place that handles stuff. So it's not quite happily ever after, but it definitely could have gone another way. And we're doing pretty good, all things considered. We're not debt free, but we got rid of everything but the original SBA loan, and even that's paid halfway down.
Nice.
So 3.5 years in, I paid over $2 million when you add in interest, buyouts, debt, all that, over $2 million to get where we are. And thankfully, the company's now worth about $3.5 million. So we've done pretty well and been very fortunate with our existing client base. And now been able to add other services like janitorial, handyman, stuff like that. But it was definitely a bumpy road, and learned some hard lessons along the way.
Yeah, sounds like it, but sounds like you're doing the right stuff. I am curious if you're willing to share kind of like what is in a revenue sense, where your business is at today, how many employees you have, like techs out in the field. And then one of the big things that I think a lot of people struggle with, myself included, is like, as you scale your business, as you grow from no employees to 5 employees, or from 5 employees to 10, or 10 to 20, like how do you set up the back office support? What should it look like? For us, it's like what positions do you need when you set up your org chart? Do you have just one person running everything, like you said, or is it 10 people or 4 people? You know what I mean? Like, how does that kind of look for you guys? Kind of what's your operational staff look like?
Yeah, well, we've grown quite a bit. Obviously, that there was that little thing that happened last year called COVID that kind of slowed everybody down. We went down about 8%, which, all things considered, we were pretty happy with. The 12 months before COVID, when I bought the company in 2017, we were doing 2.1 million. The 12 months before COVID, we were doing 2.9 million. And profits were more than double what it was when I bought it. So, very fortunate. And as a result, we've been able to increase salaries. We did little by little, even when we had the debt, even when we were not taking home anything personally, we kept raising the rates of the people, so that now the people that have been with us since we bought the company, they're making about 35% more than they were when we bought the company.
That's awesome.
We've been very fortunate to do a fair amount for charity. I have a strong principle that 10% of profit should go to employees, but in the form of profit sharing, and 10% should go to charity. So we've been able to carry that out even when we had all that debt. And I think it's just what we have. Money is meant to be a tool, and so if you're not doing good with it, then it's gonna cause you to do things you wish you didn't. So make sure you're using that for something good.
Yep, absolutely.
In terms of the organizational structure, we have right now we have 3 divisions. So we have the core is what I call it's the original services, the window cleaning, pressure washing, and gutter cleaning. And those are the 3 we had when I bought the business. We have 3 people. We have a senior CSR who's now been with me for 2 years, who's also come up here several times. And then she supervises 2 customer service reps beneath her. And they do everything. I mean, I tell people to kind of change the question. They say, well, what can your remote staff do? And I say, well, let me flip it for you. What can't they do? What are they not able to do with the right training? Because we kind of have this mental stigma of, and it's kind of like this call center that you're not going to get any, it's like, no, these are college educated people that, they're very intelligent. They speak fluent English. They're great. I mean, they're smarter than me in a lot of things. So, I mean, they answer the phones, they type up proposals, they do mail outs, they handle some of our advertising, they bid some properties. If they can get a good view from Google Earth, they bid all of our residential and almost all of our commercial under 5,000. Most proposals that come in, we have data on, because I've been able to compile data on over 5,000 commercial and multifamily buildings in the Bay Area, all as a result of these CSRs in Mexico. And so whenever a job comes in, 80% of the time it's, oh yeah, we did this one in 2019. We did it for $7,000. Our dollars per hour was $69 per man hour. So we're going to raise that 3% for the year. And they just send it back out without my ops manager or myself ever having to see it. They handle touch-ups. They handle, not obviously they don't do them, but they add them to the schedule. They schedule the jobs. They know, like, this is going to be a 5-day job. This is going to put it here. They schedule the trucks. They do everything. They run the company. Between my operations manager and my senior customer service reps, I mean, they run the thing for me.
That's awesome.
And I'd say one of the important things I've done is I not to contradict what we said earlier, is I started them with clear instructions and do X, Y, and Z. But eventually I got the time with them, and I kind of just shared the philosophy of the company of, the customer's always right. And maybe the customer isn't right, but the long-term relationship, it's worth it to just pretend like they're right and just do what they want. Unless Absolutely. It's truly egregious, just, save the relationship at all costs. And so they know they don't bug me unless it is, unless we're talking thousands of dollars, they know to just handle it. They understand where the boundaries are. I consider them my friends. They've met my family, they've met my kids. I go down there every 6 to 8 weeks at this point. They come up here quarterly. They're absolutely wonderful.
That's
and
awesome.
They're friends.
Yeah. So sorry if I missed it. Did you say how many you have as support staff? So you have your ops manager, who is local, right?
So the ops manager is local. On the domestic side, I have an operations manager. I have the cleaners. I have a janitorial sales manager, and then that's it. Everything else is in Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And then
that right there is actually really important, I think, for people to hear, myself included, because I always was of that same mindset that like you're not going to get the best support unless they're here. You know what I
right.
mean? Not
Yeah, and it's
not by any
subconscious. Yeah,
means.
people don't even know they think it. And then
Yeah.
that's why we always start with the lower positions, because I tell people when they hire somebody from our staffing company, first month is going to be a little bumpy. You're going to adjust, you're going to learn from each other. Second month, you're going to find your rhythm. Third month, you're going to call me and hire somebody else because you're going to see what all they can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. And I mean, the cost and, the liability in the United States, particularly in California, of having employees, it can be very difficult to make the tiniest mistake, not even wronging anybody, but if you don't save your time cards, if you don't do time and a half for that extra couple minutes a day, if you don't record the lunch breaks, I mean, that can turn into hundreds of thousands of dollars and see your insurance rates go through the roof. So that's another reason I love it.
Yeah, we have a hard time out here in California, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
There's
rough.
another episode right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the woes of business ownership in California. That could be an entire show.
No, instead of let's make that one a drinking game.
I like it. We'll have to do that. So one thing you said that I want to emphasize. You mentioned that. God, I'm blanking. Hold on. Sorry. Nope, it just slipped my mind. It's gone. It'll come back to me.
It must not be that
I
good.
just had it. It wasn't that good. No, it was. It was really good. It was important, but we'll leave a cliffhanger on that one. I'll come back to it when I remember. But you said something good.
All right, good to know.
So you bought the business, doing about 2 million, brought it up to about 3 million. COVID hit, went down a little bit, but you're still doing well. From a staffing standpoint, what like how many techs do you have out in the field cleaning?
We're still at 6 crews. We've actually just made them more efficient. So we haven't added any. Right now, I want to say we have 21, and going into window season, we'll add a couple more, probably stay about 25. We've raised our prices, CPI 3% a year, nothing major. But the main thing is that we created our own software, nothing fancy. We connected it to Google Maps through an open API. And now whenever a job comes in, we can type the address in and it'll show our schedule for the next 2 months. And it'll show us the miles distance to every other job booked that day. And so that's allowed us to just really make things run a lot better, more efficiently, because drive time is the killer in this business. And then we've just had more time to the customer service reps in Mexico. They're able to just schedule things more efficiently. And I think we've gotten better people. We've cut some fat. One of the things I did that was really rather painful, but also very necessary, is we got rid of some people that were here that were just not carrying their weight. They had been here for, I mean, literally 20 years, and we worked with them and, gave them the chance to improve, but they were just kind of coasting on their way out. And we just had to say, look, you can either do what we need you to do and do what everybody else is doing, or we're going to have to, take action. And unfortunately, most of them parted ways. One thing I like to tell people is the only thing I hate more than firing people is cleaning up the mess of somebody who I wanted to fire but didn't.
I love that.
Yeah. And so we were able to take that money and reallocate it to the existing workers, and kind of, we invested in a little bit of equipment, smaller DI tanks. We bought supplies in bulk. We literally buy a pallet of resin every spring, garbage bags by the pallet for gutter cleaning season, just stuff like that really adds up.
Yeah. No, that's great. I was just going to ask, like, what were some of the ways that you were able to optimize and make things more efficient? So that was a couple of them. Is there any others?
We brought in Tucker poles. That's been very helpful. They weren't really using them to their full potential. The GPS trackers have been awesome. We also did something that I don't know if controversial is the right word. A lot of people probably wouldn't do it, but we tell people that we're going to guarantee them a full 8 hours every day. So if they finish the job at 1 o'clock, they can come back. We're going to pay them until the end of the day. And that serves a couple of purposes. Number one is just morale. Number two is giving them stability so they know that they're going to get a full paycheck. They're going to stick around longer. And number three is it gives us better data, because if they know they're not going to get paid, they're going to sit on site, they're going to drag it out. And so instead we get the best data so that next year we can plan accordingly.
Yep.
And so that's one of the things that year over year has taken effect.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We actually do the same thing. And you're right. I mean, you do have those people, but those are the ones that you kind of weed out that will just sit on the job until the end of the day. But you're right. When you say, hey guys, as long as you get your day's work done, you're going to make your day's pay. I agree. It's just a moral thing. It's a moral. It's just the right thing to do, because they're earning you that X amount of money. They should get their fair share of it. That's just my opinion. I've never liked the idea of just cutting somebody off just because they came in 2 hours early. They deserve it. And I know a lot of people are paying
rewarded for that.
Exactly. And that's why I really like the commission-based pay that a lot of companies are doing nowadays. So it's similar to that, what you're saying, but out here in California, it is very difficult to track that kind of stuff. So especially in the commercial space, when I think you have some jobs as well that take multiple days and big projects.
We have a big job for 3 crews for a week, and I agree. There's definitely circumstances where it works, but I would spend the rest of my life hearing guys squabble over, well, I cleaned an extra building today, and it's just like, no, I'm not doing that.
It's a pain. But I have a teaser. So I've actually been trying to solve that problem in my own company, because we want to do a commission-based pay from the standpoint of, I want the guys to be able to earn more. But we just have to have a way to track that, as opposed to just making the 8 hours that they made, because sometimes you send them off to another job once they finished if you need help fixing something, you know what I mean? How do you compensate them for that as well? And so I've been working on actually developing an app for our own company, just a little software program for our own company. So if anyone's interested, I'll probably introduce that to the market in a few years.
The way that we've addressed it is we've done the profit sharing, which it's a little bit more intangible, but the better the company does, the more everybody gets.
Yeah, I like that. And just to reiterate what you said a minute ago about the employees, the ones that have been there a long time, something that I learned the hard way, again, because I like to learn things the hard way, I think, apparently, is, like you said, cleaning up the mess of not firing somebody that you knew you should have a long time ago is always going to be worse than just firing them and figuring that you got to, sometimes you feel like somebody's irreplaceable. And I have felt that way. There is nobody that's irreplaceable, including yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Including yourself. Like, there was, when I first took over working those 18-hour days, like, I thought everything I was doing, I thought I had to be doing, because nobody else was going to be able to do it. And I have since learned that not only can they do it, they're doing it better. You find the right person with the right skill set, and they will do whatever you can do better. Now, obviously, we have our stuff we have to have our hands on as the owners. That's one thing, but never think that anybody or anything is irreplaceable in your company, because trying to clean up that mess, for one, it builds a sense of entitlement in that person too, and they'll start to take advantage of you over time, or I should say can. So it's a possibility out there. But yeah, like you said, it's just cleaning up that mess later is always worse, 100%. So take care of the guys who do.
Yeah. And what you said about having, delegating to people that can exceed you, I like to tell people that there are a set of skills you need to run a successful business. And in the way I do is I've come up with 7 categories necessary to run a successful operation. And the cruel thing is that I've never met a single person that was good at all 7 of these. Never. If you think you are, please call me, because I'd love to talk to you, and maybe we can do a show with you.
Yeah.
But to me, you've got your trade skills. You've got to be able to deliver the product. Can you get on a ladder? Can you clean it? Can you do the work? There's sales. You have to go out and get the business, because you can be the best cleaner in the world, but if there's no business, there's no money. There's the administration side of it. There's the file keeping. There's the keeping your insurance certificates up to date. There's the bookkeeping. All of that. If you don't have this, you're never going to get beyond one or two people for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There's the customer service. Can you listen to a customer who has a bad day and just, I'm so sorry, I'll take care of that. And, just can you take that? There's the compliance part of it. Do you have the nitty gritty to read through the insurance policy and see if you've got the coverage, and are HOAs excluded? Can you go above 4 stories? Can you get into OSHA regulations? All of that. And that's compliance. There's the strategic planning. That's what I'm great at, is just the crazy ideas. Just like, hey, what if we did this? And the willingness to just try something that nobody else has tried before and see if it works. The long-term planning and just thinking about the stuff that can make the company grow. And then there's the people management, the just being able to manage your own employees, which can sometimes be the most difficult job. Most people are good at 2, maybe 3 of those. If you're really good, maybe 4. So the trick is you got to know which of those you're good at, and then find people to complement you, because you'll never give up the idea of being well-rounded. It's a myth. You could increase your strengths by miles or your weaknesses by inches. It's your choice. So it's better to take what you're great at, find somebody to do the other stuff.
Yep. 100%. And I think that's actually one thing that, well, at least myself struggled with in the beginning, because for one, I thought I was good at everything. I thought I had to be the one to handle not only doing the work because I'm the best at it, but doing the sales because I was the best at it. One thing that I don't think I was ever good at, and I never would say that I was the organizational stuff. Like keeping paper files. No, that's not going to happen. That's why I like technology. Me and my partner, Christy, are very different. She's very paper oriented, and she's great at writing stuff down, keeping it nice and neat, stacking it away. Me, I'm like, my desk is a mess. There's papers everywhere. And, that works for me. It's organized chaos, because I know, 3 months ago, I put a paper underneath this book. So there it is. That's my organizational skills. So you're right. Hiring somebody to do that for the important things in the business is an absolute must, because if I was the one taking care of it, there's no way that I could do that, running a 20-person company, What was I getting at? I'm ranting now. I was going to say what I struggled with was trying to figure out what my strengths were. Yeah. Because I have always subscribed, or once I started getting into the business mindset and realizing that as an entrepreneur, you have to start delegating, you have to leave things or hand things off to other people if you want to grow. Now, if you just want to be that one-man operation moving, that's totally fine. There are people that's just what they enjoy. Absolutely. Yeah. Me, I want the big company. I want to be where you're at, Rob, which is having that absentee ownership where you've got a team you trust to run everything, and you just kind of step in and do things. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've got ideas galore like you. It's like, I just always want to be building something new. But with that, I was trying to figure out, where are my strengths? I just didn't know, because again, like I said, I thought I was good at everything. Reality was not that way. So I heard this saying, I guess it was basically, figure out what things what tasks you do give you energy versus drain your energy. And that was a really big one for me. So like, I always thought I was really good at sales, because I do enjoy talking to people, but I also hate selling. So when I was doing sales, I was like, yeah, I'm good at this, because I did well with it. But at the end of the day, I would go home and I'd be like, ugh, that was exhausting, So then I found out, okay, that's not my strength. That's what somebody else should be doing. So I hired a guy, promoted one of our techs actually into sales, and he is crushing it and he loves it. And he's so much better than I ever was. Yeah. You talked to Christian. Yeah, he's awesome. And that's where he draws his energy. He loves that stuff. Where I draw my energy is kind of like you with that strategic planning. I can go out and talk for hours and hours and hours with people about strategic business planning. I love that.
Just weird, just random ideas of, hey, have we tried this? And 80% of them can be no good, but it's, you only need 1 or 2 to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess to summarize what I was just saying, yeah, just think about that. Like what gives you energy and what drains your energy? Because you might be good at something, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily your strength. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
when you're
absolutely.
thinking about that when you're growing your business, I thought that was a good point.
Well,
Um,
and there's something also to remember is people have this idea that it's kind of this linear growth with a business, and it's not. It's a series of plateaus and climbs. And the difficult thing is what the skills that got you to your current level are not the skills you need to go to the next level. At each stage, you need something different. The first is you just need to know how to do something. So for window cleaning, let's take it. The first thing you have to do is you got to know how to clean windows. I mean, if you don't know how to clean windows, it's a non-starter. You learn how to clean windows. The next thing you're going to need is you need to do sales. You need somebody to clean the windows for. Then you're going to need to hire a couple people. Then you need to learn management. So you're no longer cleaning windows, you're managing people. Then you have to keep track of the clients and the customers and the employees and the HR. So you need to learn the administration. And at every stage you go to, you have to learn something else. And so the hard part for people is most of them don't make it high enough that they can afford to hire people to help them. They don't have the money to do that. And
hmm.
that's one of the reasons we promote remote staffing is it allows people to do that. You can't afford to hire a $50,000 a year office manager, but for $12 an hour, I can find you somebody with a bachelor's or a master's degree to take the back office from you. So that's why we made that transition. And that's why we promote it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for those that might be thinking $12 an hour, like, can the person even live off of that? Am I screwing somebody over?
No, these are good wages. I mean, they're not going to be on MTV Cribs, but they are above average wages with full benefits, with company equipment, and our retention rate is in the 90% range because the culture is different. Our staffing is all based in one city, Guadalajara, and the culture is so different because there's a very hostile work culture between the management and the subordinates. And here, what we just consider to be the normal level of human respect by their standards is considered treating them very well. So they love working for American companies. They love working from home. They love working for small companies that they can grow with. My first customer service rep that I hired, he's still with me. He's now somewhere between an office manager, a COO, and an executive assistant. He makes triple what I hired him at. And he's worth every peso and then some. And his profit share is almost as productive as his wage.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
So I
it's
mean, that's
not
kind of what I was getting at is sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. I was just saying that that's what I was getting at is like myself included, I have that mindset of like I don't want to pay somebody $6 an hour in the Philippines because I feel
Mhm.
like I'm screwing them over. But the cost of living is so much different. The culture is so
Yeah.
much different. They're actually happy to be making that. Like you said, they have bachelors. You know, you reminded me of one of my favorite comedians, Louis C.K., talking about when you get that customer service rep in India or whatever. He's like, I have no problem. Like these are better human beings than I will ever be. You know what I mean? And that's how it is.
I
Like these
wouldn't
people
do
are
their job and be
so
as patient as they are.
they're good
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So it's not like just because they're from another country, they're they're bad. But that's the stigma that people get, right? Well, oh, they're not American. They're not going to
They
be able
don't
to
even
treat my clients
realize
the
it.
same. They don't
Yeah.
care or whatever. Yeah.
And the important thing to note as well is that Guadalajara and Mexico as a whole, there is a shared culture between the two countries. Mexican influence in America, certainly, but American influence in Mexico vis-a-vis American music. You turn on the radio, you've got American songs. You go to the movie theater, you've got American movies, you've got American TV shows. So it's a totally different language than the English language you find in Mexico is totally different than you find in India, the Philippines, which are the two other major outsourcing countries. Because let's be honest, if you get a phone call, your brain, you just shut off. But if you hear, because you just say solicitor and it's triggered, deeply embedded. But if you call somebody, or like today I had to call Expedia, and I was trying to make a flight reservation to go down to Mexico in a couple of weeks, and I was trying to use a credit from a flight that I had changed. I kid you not, 2 hours. And it was that typical infuriating call center that, like, you feel like you're talking to either a really difficult person or a really smart AI, and you can't even tell, right? And that's not what we do. We provide good employees that are intelligent. They will challenge you and make recommendations on, hey, here's a way we can improve, and here's something we can do to make the business better. And they will feel like ownership in the company, and they will grow with you, and they'll become your friends and your family.
Yep.
And the cost is so cheap to bring them up. I highly recommend people do it, just to visit and to cross train.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's awesome. And you said you have a business doing exactly that.
Yeah, it was an accidental business, because I'm the same way. I'm a serial entrepreneur. We hired for a couple of companies that I own. We started hiring in Mexico, and we just saw the enormous potential, and so we hired about 10 for ourselves. And then I do consulting as well to other business owners and people who need it. And I found myself saying, hey, here's some things you could do, and you should really hire a remote team member. Oh, do you know where I could find one? Oh yeah, I'll help you get one. And then, it just kept building from there. And then they would hire more, and they would tell their friends. And now my staffing company it's not as big as my window cleaning company, but considering it's only a couple years old, it's by the end of the year, it might surpass my cleaning company.
There you go.
And so we specialize in providing administrative support for building services, real estate, property management, and accounting firms in the US and Canada that have a hard time hiring domestic staff because of the cost. And we help them get set up with, high quality individuals.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. What is the name of that company in case anybody is interested?
It's Gordian Staffing. So it's www.gordianstaffing.com. And we also have Gordian Consulting. So if you need help setting up your procedures or templates, or, maybe you're the guy on the legal pad that has a good business, but you want to get everything cloud-based and transition out, we can help you do that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put links to those down below in the comment, or not the comments, the description, in case you guys do want to check that out. But on that, trying to bring this back full circle, you clearly know what you're doing. You've done very well for yourself and have built this business and done all the right things. So do you have advice for us outside of all the golden nuggets that we've already said? Let's say you've got someone that's just starting out in business. What would some advice be for that?
There's just some good general stuff. First off is decide, do you want a job or do you want a business? And there's nothing wrong with either answer. One of the first questions I ask clients when I go to their offices and I do consulting, or when I do Zoom calls like this, is I ask them, if you were to get into a car accident and you couldn't work for 2 months, what would happen to your company? And if the answer isn't, it would just continue along. Maybe it would slow a little, but it'd be okay. If the answer is not, it would be okay. You don't have a job, you have a business. You don't have a business, you have a job. Because if you can't take a week off of work, if you can't take a vacation, if you can't afford to get injured, you just have a very complicated, very stressful job. And again, I'm not bashing it. I know a lot of people who are so happy, and they got, maybe them and one other person. And I wish I could just be that patient and that mellow and just, I can't. I got to conquer. I got to go build something else. And I know in my heart, these people are a lot happier than I am. So if that's you, there's nothing wrong with that. But decide the path you want to take. Because one of the first things you got to do is work yourself out of the business. That doesn't mean that you stop working. It doesn't mean that you retire. It means that you're not necessary. I could disappear tomorrow for 2 months, and I'm sure there'd be some questions. I'm sure there'd be a couple of dropped balls, but the company would be okay without me. And that is the greatest thing that can happen to a business, because that frees you up to find what it is that, like you said, gives you energy. Is it sales? Is it making connections? Is it going to trade shows like the IWCA trade show and finding new equipment? Is it, administration? Maybe you just love reading through insurance policies and things like that. Figure out what it is. But if you work yourself out of a job and you have people doing the day-to-day, you get that choice. Otherwise, you'll never have the choice. So first thing is decide whether you want a job or whether you want a business. And if you want a business, find a way to work yourself out of it. Like I said, figure out what your skills are and find a way. You don't have to hire somebody necessarily, although our base rate for an employee in Mexico for a general customer service rep is, including the Christmas bonus and everything, taxes, full benefits, it's usually about $950 to $980 an hour, so about $1,500 a month. So there's a pretty low threshold to get an administrative assistant, customer service rep. But if you can't do that, there's other options. You don't need to know bookkeeping. You can hire a bookkeeper for a couple $100 a month. If you can't support somebody full time, you can use an answering service to take your messages and get them off the cell phone and all that. So there's always a way to do it. Find the areas that you suck at and find somebody to do them for you. So I would definitely say that. Develop a budget. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to look good. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be a napkin for all I care. But figure out your costs, especially your annual costs, like your insurance policy. Nick, I don't know what you're paying. We're paying, over $100,000 for workers' comp and then some. And so if we don't have that budgeted, if we don't have that money set aside and that money comes due, we're in trouble. There's something called the envelope system, where every month you take a certain amount and for rent and you put it here, insurance, you put it here, payroll, you put it here, to make sure you don't, those 3 payroll months that come and it's like, oh crap. Yeah. Make sure you have money set aside. By the way, April, 3 payroll month for most people. Don't forget. Have that money aside. Taxes. We had an awesome year in 2018, and then it was like, oh crap, you want me to pay I just made this money. Now I got to pay you this couple $100,000 in taxes. What is this?
Yeah.
So, just make sure you have that. Work on an inventory system. Again, it doesn't have to be complicated, but it's amazing how much money you can lose if you don't have a good inventory system, and even just tracking what you ordered to what arrives, because stuff gets lost. And if you forget a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there, it adds up. Create client files. Definitely get GPS trackers, track your dollar per hour, make notes on the property so that if you're ever sick or you hire an employee, somebody else can take over. What I tell people is our entire operation should be able to, disappear tomorrow. Brand new people should be able to come in, read our notes, and just go get it. That's the goal that we're trying to get. So become a data fanatic and just record everything you can, because you never know what's going to be useful.
Yep.
Definitely corporate bank account. Don't commingle your funds. Get a business email. Get a cheap website. Go to something like Wix or go to Fiverr. A couple $100, you can get a decent looking website. Maybe it's not fair, but personally, if I get a call from a service provider and they send me something from Gmail, there's a really good chance I'm not going to take it, because in this day and age, it's a mark of professionalism to have your own website and your own domain.
Yep, agreed.
So track KPIs, your dollar, key performance indicators, track your dollar per hour, your attendance rate, your percentage of overtime, your percentage of missed calls. Funny story, when I started recording our missed call percentage, I thought we were doing really good. This is for another company I had, a property management company. And I just assumed we were doing good because I didn't hear too many complaints until I started tracking the data. Come to find out, our first week that we recorded these KPI, our missed call percentage was 37%.
Wow.
Come to find out and that was with 2 CSRs on phones. Come to find out there was something wrong with an extension when we had let somebody go. So a third of the calls were just going into this black hole. And so we were able to fix it in 5 minutes, but we would never have looked there if we hadn't looked at the data. So become data-driven. Look at your response time, email response time, proposal conversion rate. I can't tell you what you'll learn, but I guarantee you'll learn something. And it can be difficult, especially when you're at the stage I was, working 80 hours a week and all that. But it's really important. It's the only way you'll get out of that catch-22 is by slow, gradual growth.
Yep, absolutely. that was a
It-
lot of good nuggets right there that I can't summarize for you. So I'm just going to tell everybody rewind and listen to that all over again, because that was all so important, every bit of that. And
and I'll
don't
add,
let it overwhelm you. Take it one step at a time.
yeah,
One step at a
yeah,
time,
and
like you
this
said,
is
gradual.
years worth of mistakes. This is not something I read a book and just woke up and no, this is years and hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes.
Yep.
And I want to add, I love helping people. So if you have a question, you can email me anytime. Just go to Gordian Staffing, go to the contact us. I'm happy to just hop on a call for an hour, no charge, and just answer your questions. I genuinely enjoy helping people. I mean, just don't worry about payment or anything like that. Just feel free to reach out at any time. I love helping businesses get to that next level, because I know how dark a place it is when you're, overdrawn and you're just praying that the AR comes in before the payroll checks go out, and asking, is payroll going to bounce, and will the people show up if it does? And I've been there. So, by all means, give me a call. We'll hop on a call for an hour and just see what we can do. And hopefully it's a help.
That's awesome. That's very generous of you. You heard them, guys. Blow them up. Get the help you need. That is very cool. Thank you, Rob. Is there anything else? I know we're kind of running high on this. We had some really really good conversations here, but I want to be respectful of your time as well. So unless you have anything else, maybe we wrap this up and we can do another one in the future about, especially about the debt and
always
and all
happy
that.
to, always happy to gab and hope people learn from my mistakes. And yeah, no, it's been good. It's been a real interesting industry. I'm coming up on 4 years now, and met some really cool people and some really good organizations. And I guess my final thought would just be, just keep learning. I know a lot of people that are they're almost proud in their ignorance, and it's, every day you should be learning something new. The day you stop learning is the day you start dying. So I would say just keep checking out organizations like the IWCA and other organizations, and podcasts. You can put one headphone in your ear while you're cleaning. I mean, there's no audiobooks. There's no excuse not to be learning in this day and age. It's an amazing day that we live in. So keep learning.
Yep, absolutely. Wow. There you have it, guys. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. Appreciate your time here. That was
thanks for having me.
That was a lot of nuggets all in a 1 hour time frame. So if you didn't catch everything, yeah, exactly. Even that 1 hour was all concentrated. I know we could go into this stuff for hours and hours and hours. But guys, go back and listen to, if you caught something in there, listen again, take notes. Like Rob said, incremental changes.
Yeah.
Don't take all your problems and try to solve them at once. Make a to-do list, organize it by what comes first.
Best way to burn out. Yeah, this is at least a year's worth of material. Everything I just said should take you at least a year to get there. So I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. There's a great book called Atomic Habits. If you increase by 1% per day, you will end up 3,567% greater than a year later. So just make a small change each day. Walk one extra block, or do one extra push of whatever it is. Make small incremental changes. If you try to do all this, you're going to burn out and just crash and burn. So small growth, small change.
Absolutely. And I just got to throw a plug out there. You mentioned the envelope method. If you guys haven't heard of, I'm sure almost everybody in the business world has, Mike Michalowicz, the Profit First method.
Yeah, Profit First.
Yep, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a phenomenal method to help organize your thoughts. You don't have to follow it exactly to the T if you don't want, but even just getting in that mindset of setting money aside for those habits. We have separate accounts for everything. We have our tax account, we have our our capital expenditures account, all that kind of stuff, and it makes a big difference, because when you see the money getting low in your checking account, your main account, and then you got payroll coming out, it helps to have that extra money set aside so that you don't have to stress about it. Another one, just
financing, you don't want to get into that hole.
Yeah, exactly. Another one by Mike Michalowicz, one of his most recent books that I just read, Fix This Next, talking about making those incremental changes. That book really helped me to figure out how to organize what thing I should be working on next. Because when you have all these different problems, it's like, well, which one do I start with? So that book, Fix Fix This Next by Mike Michalowicz was a great book. And I'm sure there's others out there that talk about that. That's just one of the more recent ones that I read. And I love Mike Michalowicz. So Mike, if you see this, love you. I'm not getting paid for that, unfortunately. But no, go check out those books. I love those books. And it basically just, what we just talked about, it goes over all that and how to organize that. Otherwise, if you don't like reading, call Rob. He'll help you figure it out. So anyways, we'll let everybody go here. Thank you so much, Rob. Stay on the line here. I'm just going to end this, but yeah, you guys check out the notes below for links to Rob's contact info. Go to his websites, check out his Gordian staffing if you need some help without having to hire a full-time employee, and his contact info will be in there as well. So you guys can reach out if you want to get a hold of him. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.